What do you get when your persona tries to keep it cute, your ego tries to keep control, and your shadow tries to keep it real? What you get is a three-way cage match in your psyche's basement, sponsored by Carl Jung. The collective unconscious is in the rafters too, waving archetype foam fingers, cheering on whichever part of you starts throwing the first mythic punch. All right, my spiritual rebels, grab your emotional support popcorn, your intuition, and your favorite archetype, because today we're not dissecting a movie. We're dissecting why we dissect movies. Why Jung? Why spiritual and Kundalini awakenings? Why cinema? Why does this whole thing feel like therapy wrapped in glitter, delivered by a fabulous professor with a PhD? While your ego sits in the back row whispering, I don't think we can send into growth. It didn't, and it won't either. Popcorn secured, ego hydrated, shadow already rolling its eyes. Let's get into the just over 2-minute synopsis of Carl G. Jung before he files a complaint from the great beyond for being left out. Carl Gustav Jung was the Swiss psychologist who looked at the human mind and said, "Sweetie, this isn't just neurons. This is mythology wearing a trench coat." He believed we're not just personalities. We're living stories trying to become whole. At the core of Jung's work is individuation, the lifelong process of becoming your real integrated self, instead of the performance your ego has been running since childhood. Think of it as the spiritual evolution arc your soul signed up for, but your ego keeps trying to reschedule into infinity. To understand individuation, you need Jung's big three and the Kool-Aid we're all drinking from. The ego, your inner PR manager. It's the identity you think you are, the narrator of your life, the part that says, "I'm fine," while your shadow is smoking in the corner like, "Girl, no you're not." The ego isn't bad, it's just committed to the script. The persona, your social mask, the curated version of you designed to survive high school, job interviews, family dinners, and Instagram. It's useful until you start confusing the mask for your actual face. It ain't your face. The shadow, everything you've exiled, forbidden desires, disowned traits, unprocessed rage, inconvenient brilliance. It's the part of you that doesn't disappear just because you pretend, "That's not me." The shadow shows up in projections, patterns, and those "why am I like this" moments. And the collective unconscious, the psychic Kool-Aid Wi-Fi network we're all secretly logged into. It's the shared vault of human symbols, myths, dreams, and archetypes. This is where your psyche stores the universal patterns that shape your fears, desires, relationships, and movie obsessions. Individuation is what happens when these layers stop fighting one another and start collaborating with one another. It's when the ego stops pretending, the persona stops performing, and the shadow stops sabotaging, and the deeper self, the one connected to that collective mystic Wi-Fi, steps forward and says, "All right, all y'alls, let's evolve together." And it's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. And whole is where the magic and the movies finally make sense. All right, now that we've sped run through Jung like an A24 trailer for your inner life, moody lighting, symbolic bears.
So we just gotta ignore the bed.
Lambs. And foxes.
You'll find no mercy.
What witchcraft is this?
No witchcraft.
A24, that's not a diss. I look forward to the day you produce something I wrote that has weird ass symbolic animals in it. Or a movie that references weird ass symbolic animals but never actually shows any.
Later, of course, I found out that everyone eats spinny the exact same way. Exact same way.
And unresolved childhood themes. Let's talk about why the Swiss psychologist's work is the backbone of this whole operation. Why Jungian psychology? Why now? Why Jungian psychology is because Jungian psychology is the spiritual backbone of everything we do here. Jung cracked open the human psyche like a lost director's cut of the soul and said, "Oh look, trauma and symbolism." Jung began his career working alongside Sigmund Freud, another psychologist and the father of psychoanalysis. Freud focused on childhood, repression, sexuality, neurosis. Basically, tell me about your mother. But Jung looked at the psyche and said, "Baby, this is bigger than your mother issues. This is mythic. This is spiritual. This is archetypal. This is messy." My kind of psychologist. He broke away from Freud because he believed the psyche is spiritual, not just psychological. Dreams are messages, not just wish fulfillment. Symbols are universal, not random. The unconscious is alive, not passive. Humans are driven by meaning, not just instinct. Freud said, "You want your parents?" Jung said, "You want God, purpose, and a nap." Jung became the father of analytical psychology, which includes archetypes, the collective unconscious, the shadow, the persona, the anima and the animus, synchronicity, individuation. He didn't just study the mind. He studied myth, religion, alchemy, astrology, art, dreams, and spiritual awakenings. He was basically the original "I'm spiritual, not religious" girly. He is the psychologist who said, "Your soul is trying to talk to you. Are you listening?" And that is why he is the backbone of this entire spiritual movie breakdown series. Jung said, "You are not just a personality. You are a psyche, a myth, a constellation of archetypes, a story trying to remember itself." And the ultimate goal of Jungian work is individuation, or the process of becoming your whole, authentic, integrated self. Individuation is meeting your shadow, integrating your wounds, reclaiming your power, dissolving your persona, listening to your dreams, becoming who you were always meant to be. It's not self-improvement. It's self-revelation. It's the spiritual version of "new phone, who this?" And cinema is the dream we all share. It's the collective unconscious with better lighting. Which brings us to, now that we've established Jung as the original "I'm spiritual and not religious" girly, let's get into the glow up he actually cared about. Individuation. The psychological hero's journey your soul keeps trying to enroll you in. So, what is individuation? Individuation is the journey from the unconscious to the conscious, the fragmented to the whole, the performative to the authentic, the wounded to the integrated, the reactive to the sovereign. It's the hero's journey but internal. It's the spiritual awakening but psychological. It's the shadow work but mythic. It's the main character energy arc your soul has been begging you to take. Individuation is when your soul says, "I'm tired of pretending. Let's evolve." Why does it matter? Well, individuation is important because it frees you from unconscious patterns. It stops you from dating the same person with a different haircut. It dissolves the false self. It integrates the shadow. It awakens your intuition. It aligns you with your purpose. It makes you psychologically sovereign. It is the process of becoming whole, not perfect. Perfect is boring. Whole is iconic. So, what happens when you don't individuate? Oh, my lovelies, this is where the tea gets hot. When we refuse to individuate, we get projection, self-sabotage, repeating toxic patterns, emotional stagnation, spiritual numbness, anxiety, depression, midlife crises, identity collapses, shadow explosions, which is telling us that most of us ain't individuating out here. The psyche will always push towards wholeness. If you resist consciously, it will drag you by the wig unconsciously. And by dragged by your wig, the universe generally means dunked in a vat of toxic lessons by way of people, places, and things. A vat of toxic noun lessons, if you will. What are noun lessons? Noun lessons are what I call when humans attempt to get to abstract nouns like faith, love, trust, loyalty through concrete nouns like houses, cars, money. This is the reason why people blow up their lives, attract chaos, repeat the same relationships, feel empty even when life looks successful. The shadow will not stay buried. The self will not stay silent. Individuation is choosing to evolve with grace instead of waiting for your psyche to file a complaint with HR and eject you from your mild chaotic life into something more drastically chaotic, suitable for the noun lessons you need to learn. Now that we've covered the consequences of dodging your own evolution, let's talk about what happens when the psyche gets tired of waiting and flips the Kundalini light switch anyway. What is a spiritual and Kundalini awakening? It's when your soul hits the light switch and your ego screams. So I'm adding two things together, kind of sort of for the sake of brevity. But a Kundalini awakening is the rising of consciousness, the activation of the inner self, the burning away of illusions, the confrontation with the shadow, the death of the old identity, and the birth of the true self. It's messy, it's chaotic, it's beautiful, it's terrifying, it's liberating. It's basically your higher self entering the room like, I'll take it from here. While your ego calls security, and your ego will call for security, trust me. And Jung loved Kundalini symbolism because he saw it as the psyche evolving in real time. Kundalini equals the energy of individuation. Individuation equals the psychological map of awakening. They are two languages describing the same transformation. One in Sanskrit, one in Swiss. And how is cinema playing into all of this? Well, now that your ego has screamed, your soul has risen, and your shadow is vaped in the corner, let's talk about cinema. Because movies are where all these psychic shenanigans get cast, costumed, scored, and projected 20 feet tall. Why cinema? Because movies are modern myths. Cinema is a collective dream of humanity. Movies are archetypes in motion, the shadow projected on a screen, the persona glamorized, the anima singing, the animus fighting, the self calling, the shadow confessing, the psyche performing itself. When you watch a movie, you're not just being entertained. You're watching your wounds, your desires, your fears, your fantasies, your archetypes, your shadow, your potential. Movies are mirrors. Movies are myths. Movies are medicine. Movies are cheaper than therapy and come with popcorn. But don't skip the therapy because, y'all got issues. So, Now that we've established movies as modern myth, let's talk about why we use them for the work. Why healing hits different when it comes with a soundtrack and fight choreography. Somewhere, somehow, somebody is always kung fu fighting.
Everybody was kung fu fighting.
Because healing is easier when it's fun. Shadow work is pretty heavy. Individuation is very intense. Kundalini awakenings are chaotic. But when you do it through cinema, it becomes playful, creative, symbolic, safe, mythic, embodied, and accessible. You're not analyzing your trauma, you're analyzing Elle Woods, or Roxy Hart, or Frankenfurter, or Velma Kelly. But secretly, you're analyzing yourself. It's like tricking your psyche into therapy with glitter and choreography. Cinema lets you project safely, explore deeply, integrate gently, awaken joyfully. It's therapy with theater. It's spirituality in stilettos. It's psychology with popcorn. It's healing with a soundtrack, and that's why we do it. All right, now that we've marched through the psyche like it's a 5-act Broadway revival, ego panicking, persona posing, shadow vaping in the wings, and the self trying to run the show. Let's shift gears, because understanding the stages is cute, but understanding why we're doing all this cinematic soul surgery in the first place, that's the real tea. So let's talk about it. Why your psyche keeps dragging you towards meaning, why movies feel like prophecy, and why this whole breakdown series is basically your soul's favorite extracurricular activity. So let's talk about the big bad in the room, your ego. Technically, it's like your inner PR manager. The ego is the narrator, the identity, the manager, the mask, the survival system you've been running on. The ego is not really bad. It's just dramatic as hell. It's the part of you that says, I've got this under control. While your shadow is in the back lighting a cigarette like, do you? Do you really? And listen, the ego doesn't refuse growth because it's evil. It refuses because growth feels like eviction. Suddenly the soul shows up with a clipboard saying, great news, we're renovating the entire identity. And the ego starts hiding receipts, changing locks, and pretending nobody's home. The ego's whole job is survival. It built the mask, memorized the rules, and bubble wrapped every feeling that once felt too dangerous for you to feel. So when individuation walks in, talking authenticity, shadow integration, and emotional honesty, the ego hears, we're losing control, the performances are being canceled, and the soul is taking over management. Naturally, it panics. Hence the calling of security. And it will call security. Growth means the ego can't keep running expired software and calling it personality anymore. The old defenses have to retire. The old stories get fact-checked. And the old identity has to stop surviving on trauma and vibes. But the ego isn't being destroyed. It's being demoted from CEO of the psyche to helpful assistant with boundaries. Still employed, just no longer allowed to make executive decisions based on fear, expired coping mechanisms, and whatever happened in 2009. And yes, it's taking the demotion personally because to the ego, growth feels like spiritual gentrification. The soul moves in, raises the emotional rent, repaints everything authentic, and suddenly the old trauma furniture no longer matches the new vibe. All right, my loves. Now that we've dragged the psyche, praised the cinema, and exposed the ego's security calling habits, let's wrap this up with what we actually learned today. So, what did we learn? Jungian psychology gives us the framework. Individuation gives us the goal. Kundalini gives us the energy. Cinema gives us the myth. And Just P, I give you the language, the quips, the impertinence, and the archetypal clarity, and the spiritual reverence to make the whole thing feel like a cosmic slumber party instead of a doctoral dissertation. If you're here, it's because your soul is ready to evolve and it wants to have fun doing it. And remember, my loves, your shadow isn't the villain. It's the co-star you've been ignoring. Keep watching your movies like mirrors, keep laughing through the healing, and keep watching your individuation path with cinematic style. I'm Just P, and that's the end for now. All right, my Cosmic Center Rebels, if this breakdown lit up your inner myth machine, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and wander into the other videos waiting for you on this channel. The story doesn't end here, it just changes scenes.